I have a comic because apparently that's something that you do in a presentation. I've always seen a comic in the presentations that I watch. So I'll just read it out if you can't see. So the husband says in a lawyer's office, "I want half the value of the house and the kids every other weekend." And the wife says, "I want him thrown into a vat of lava filled with special piranha that can live in lava." And I think that the missing A on the word piranha just kind of makes it all the better here. So I put this in just to show that a lot of times people coming in with a family law issue to your office or my office or people in your own lives that you know that experience going through these kinds of issues are really suffering. They're really in a vulnerable time in their lives, especially when they are also dealing with perhaps immigration law issues or other issues or emotional issues. They're often experiencing a lot of bitterness and a lot of hurt, and it prevents people from being able sometimes to think the most clearly. I often say that it's helpful for me to remember that people who are coming in that I encounter with the family law issue are often at one of the worst, lowest points of their lives emotionally. And sometimes that can affect their judgment, which is completely understandable given how traumatic of an experience it can be to go through a family breakdown. I also put this up there to show that some people's ideas of what the law is in family is very different than what the law actually is. So I'm hoping what you'll get from this presentation as people who are providing legal information to clients is the ability to sort of gently guide clients who are coming in with very different ideas about what the law is, and probably with good reason, because the laws around family law issues in their own countries are probably very different than the laws we have in Canada. So just being able to sort of guide them into what the law actually is here, so those positions don't get too entrenched, which can lead to more conflict. Okay, so basically I just wanted to give you some initial statistics. So there's a recent cost of justice report that came out that says that 1.2 million people, 1.2 million Canadians will experience a family law problem in any given 3-year period. So it's a lot of people who are experiencing these kinds of problems. I also just want to note that 60% of court matters are family law matters, 60% of matters that judges hear. About 50% of litigants, people who are going to court in family matters in BC, are self-represented. So half of people are going to court trying to navigate our often complex court system without the benefit of legal counsel. So your job is very important in terms of directing people to the right resources outside of court that they can rely on to be able to present their case as effectively as they can. So to start off, the Family Law Act and the Divorce Act applies to people who are spouses in BC. So what is a spouse in BC? Obviously, people who are married, who have entered into a marriage contract. And for unmarried people, you have to be living in a marriage-like relationship for at least 2 years. This is one of the biggest misconceptions I have for people who come into the office who think that it's 5 years until I'm considered common law, or it's 6 months until I'm considered common law. So it's really, really important to make it clear to people that the period in BC, because it's different in other provinces who have their own family law acts, is 2 years. And knowing that information prevents a situation where people sort of fall into being spouses without actually realizing that they've triggered all of the rights and obligations that come with that. For purposes other than division of property or debt, and we're mostly talking about spousal support here, unmarried people who have lived together for less than 2 years are spouses for only the purpose of spousal support. So if you've lived together with your spouse for less than 2 years, even though you haven't met that 2-year benchmark, you can still seek spousal support if you have a child, okay?